Russian Zoom?
No.
Da. Okay. Хорошо. Вот.
I just need to go down to your room to help them with the wiring things. So once you stop close, can I go down?
Yeah, sure. This thing's running?
I'm gonna put it on now. Can I press the icon?
Well, let me see if a bit more than 19. Okay. This, which is the one which has the sound?
That camera.
Okay, so the sound's not on. It seems. Yes. Alrighty. Huh?
Can I stop it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, connect the other microphone.
Hare Krishna devotees. Haribol. Haribol. Our program begins. Our program begins for today. Sounds working there? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
It's not even picking up anything.
Not picking up anything.
Yeah.
Well, put it, to put it onto the internal microphone. Put it onto the internal microphone.
The XLR.
No, not XLR. XLR is this. Or am I going to have to get out and see?
Must be 3.5 more left.
No.
No, I haven't do it.
Excuse me, everyone. How to escape. So there's no sound. Oops. Haribol, Haribol. Haribol, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This thing, look at this, we got to get it. It's got to be sort of untangled regularly. Otherwise, it's just, going to be a problem. No. See, I'm situated a little too far for you. That's it. That's okay. Let's just see. Yes, it's okay. Here we go, devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jaya Balava Giribaladhare Gopi Jaya Balava Giribaladhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Yamunatira Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Balava Gopi Jana Balava Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Yamunatira Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Mishnapad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Studies His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 28, Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. Verse 22. Yach Chaucha Nisrita Sarit Pravarodakena Tertena Murdni Adikritena Shiva Shivo Bhut Dhyatur Mana Shamala Shaila Nisrishta Vajram Dhyayech Chiram Bhagavatash Charanaravindam Yachchau Chanistrita Sarit Pravarodakena Tertena Murdnya Dikritena Shiva Shivo Bhut Dhyatur Mana Shamala Shaila Nisrishta Vajram Jayet Chiram Bhagavatash Charanaravindam Yachchocha Nistrita Sarit Pravarodakena Tertena Mordyadi Kritena Shiva Shivo Bhut Jatur Mana Shamala Shaila Nisrishta Vajram Dhyayech Chiram Bhagavatash Charanaravindam
Yachchocha nisrita sarit pravaroda kena. Tertena murtnadi kritena shiva shiva bhut. Jatur manasha malashaila nisrishta vajram. Dhyayech chiram bhagavatash charanara vindam.
Dhatur manas samala shaila nisrishta vajram. Dhyayat chiram bhagavata bhajanara vindam.
Yat, the Lord's lotus feet, shocha, washing, nisrita, gone forth, sarit pravara, of the Ganges, udakena, by the water, tirtena, holy, murtni, on his head, adikritena, born, Shiva, Lord Shiva, Shiva, auspicious, Abhut, became, Dhyato, of the meditator, Mana, in the mind, Shamala Shaila, the mountain of sin, Nisrishta, hurled, Vajram, thunderbolt, Jayet, one should meditate, Chiram, for a long time, Bhagavata, of the Lord, Charana Aravindam, on the lotus feet. Translation: the blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts, hurled to shatter the mountain of sin, stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the position of Lord Shiva is specifically mentioned. The impersonalist suggests that the absolute truth has no form, and that one can therefore equally imagine the form of Vishnu or Lord Shiva or the goddess Durga or their son Ganesh. But actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Master of everyone. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila chapter 5 verse 142, it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ara Sababritya. The Supreme Lord is Krishna, and everyone else, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, not to mention other demigods, is a servant of Krishna. The same principle is described here. Lord Shiva is important because he is holding on his head the holy Ganges water, which has its origin in the foot wash of Lord Vishnu. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami, it is said that anyone who puts the Supreme Lord and the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, on the same level, at once becomes a Pashandi, or atheist. We should never consider that the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the demigods are on an equal footing. Another significant point of this verse is that the mind of the conditioned soul, on account of its association with the material energy from time immemorial, contains heaps of dirt in the form of desires to lord it over material nature. This dirt is like a mountain, but a mountain can be shattered when hit by a thunderbolt. Meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord acts like a thunderbolt on the mountain of dirt in the mind of the yogi. If a yogi wants to shatter the mountain of dirt in his mind, he should concentrate on the lotus feet of the Lord and not imagine something void or impersonal. Because the dirt has accumulated like a solid mountain, one must meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for quite a long time. For one who is accustomed to thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord constantly, however, it is a different matter. The devotees are so fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord that they do not think of anything else. Those who practice the yoga system must meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time, after following the regulative principles and thereby controlling the senses. It is specifically mentioned here, Bhagavatas Charanara Vindam. One has to think of the lotus feet of the Lord. The Mayavadis imagine that one can think of the lotus feet of Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma or the goddess Durga to achieve liberation. But this is not so. Bhagavata is specifically mentioned. Bhagavata means of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and no one else. Another significant phrase in this verse is Shiva Shivo Bhut. By his constitutional position, Lord Shiva is always great and auspicious. But since he has accepted on his head the Ganges water, which emanated from the lotus feet of the Lord, he has become even more auspicious and important. The stress is on the lotus feet of the Lord. a relationship with the lotus feet of the Lord can even enhance the importance of Lord Shiva. What to speak of other ordinary living entities? So the verse again. Yach chaucha nisrita sarit pravarodakena, tirtena murd nadit kritena shiva shivo bhut, jatur mana shamala shaila nisrishta vajram, jayech chiram bhagavatas charanara vindam. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has as its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's lotus feet act like thunderbolts, hurled to shatter the mountain of sin, stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yes, so Lord Kapila is describing the process of meditation which follows the breathing exercises according to his program of Sankhya Yoga, which has its connection with Ashtanga Yoga. That after becoming able to fix the mind through the breathing exercises in that process, then one should focus one's vision internally, at least, if possible, externally, on the actual lotus feet of the Lord. One should begin like that. As is said sometimes, one should begin at the beginning. Good place to begin. One should not become pretentious. One should begin at the beginning. So, in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should begin at the lotus feet. Even the other day, there have been descriptions of how the Srimad Bhagavatam is a form of the Lord. And as such, the first canto is his lotus feet. And the 12th canto is the very, very top, like where the Brahmarandram is. The very top of the head is there. And the 10th canto is the smiling face of the Lord. 11th canto is his forehead, and so on and so forth. So therefore, in our study of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should start with the first canto and then systematically go through. Srila Prabhupada would, he would be, disappointed, at least you could say, or even more than disappointed sometimes, by the approach of certain sadhus who become popular by doing what they call Bhagavat Saptahas, 7-day recitations of Srimad Bhagavatam, supposedly following Shukadev Goswami's recitation to Maharaj Parikshit in 7 days and 7 nights. But these people They just go straight to the 10th canto. And even particularly the chapters, it's around chapter 30 and thereabouts, where the rasa dance of the Lord is described, and they focus on those parts. And yes, make it all sound really on a lower level than it actually is. And one devotee told me that in the course of doing that and trying to keep the attention of the audience, who are nice, somewhat pious, but not really very deeply understanding what is Krishna consciousness and what's the Bhagavatam, and what to speak of what's the 10th canto. But try to keep their attention by telling, one devotee said, what was it, railway jokes, something like that. Someone said, it just means common people's jokes, to keep the attention of common people. So anyway, in our approach, of course, is somewhat different. We don't really do the breathing exercises, as we've said on a number of occasions over the last week or two or so. But rather, Srila Prabhupada here recommends, and of course it's the Yuga Dharma, to chant the holy names of the Lord in order to capture our otherwise prone to wander attention. And then of course, in Lord Kapila's case, what he's talking about is more a process of meditation, internal within the mind. But Srila Prabhupada recommended for us to worship the deity, to serve the deity by doing actual deity worship, and to take part in programs like deity greeting, Mangal Arati, other Aratis, and programs like that, in which there is kirtan, but we're also focusing our attention on the deity form of the Lord. Yes. Actually, that kirtan in front of the deities, where we're focusing our attention on the deities and on the holy names, of course. Srila Prabhupada elsewhere makes the point that this is actually part of the process of archana. Even though kirtan is going on, of course, and kirtan is kirtan, but in the sense that kirtan in front of the deities, where it's being done for the pleasure of the deities, and we're looking at the deities regularly. This is part of deity worship, and not simply part of kirtan, but also part of deity worship. And in this way, we should start, when we see the Lord, start from the lotus feet. Even Queen Kunti, who was the aunt of Lord Krishna, in the 8th chapter of the 1st canto, she makes that point herself, that I should really start from your lotus feet, but so as to not embarrass you, I may start from your waist, because she was Lord Krishna's aunt. So in a technical, social type of sense, she's a senior. So she makes that point. I should start at your lotus feet, but I'll start at your waist so as to not embarrass you. Yes, this is all part of the Leela, the personal exchanges like that. So one way or the other, whether it's within the mind or whether it's focused on the deity form or some picture of the Lord, which is also in the category of deity, actually. But one way or the other, one should start at the lotus feet of the Lord. And one way or the other, one should know that we should really try to absorb our minds, because this is a very powerful part of bringing out our dormant Krishna consciousness. So here, of course, this verse and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing that Lord Shiva, who is anyway, he's a very great personality, and obviously everyone's heard of Lord Shiva, but even he, who's just a very special person, elevated person to start off with, he has become blessed and purified further and elevated to a higher transcendental position by receiving on his head the Ganges water. That, of course, that's all described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how Maharaj Bhagirat wanted to bring the Ganges down to Gangasagra to deliver his forefathers. So Ganga Devi was ready to come. She was not flowing on this planet, but she was ready to come. But she said that if I come, then the impact on this planet will be so great, and just, the effect on the universe will be so great, it's going to just knock the planet out of its orbit and create some chaos in the universe. So she said, I need someone to catch me on the way down. And so Lord Shiva, he agreed. And he did. He caught the water and broke the impact, and then it flowed down through the planet and it purified the forefathers of Bhagirat, and then just carried on through the rest of the universe too. So, yes, so Lord Shiva, in the course of all that, Lord Shiva became more purified and more blessed than he was already, because he was already blessed and special as an elevated personality, and he was already a devotee, actually. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada discusses these points, that no one should make the mistake of thinking that any of these other personalities, Shiva, Durga, Prabhupada mentions Ganesh, Lord Brahma, and company, that any of them are on the same level as Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. One should never make that mistake. If one does make this mistake, Prabhupada refers to the verse, it's from Hari Bhakti Vilas of Sanatana Goswami, this verse, which says that people who do think like that Brahma, Shiva, and so on, the demigods, are equal to Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, that this disqualifies them to such a great degree that they can now be considered atheists. That's very, very strong criticism. But that's Shastra. That's what is said. And even those, and particularly Lord Shiva is mentioned here, those who are demigods, and Lord Shiva particularly, are blessed if they get contact, for example, in this case here, with the water of the Ganges. They become blessed. How's that? Because that water is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. Yes. When Lord Vamana took his third step in his pastime with Bali Maharaj, reclaiming the universe from the demons for the demigods, his big toe penetrated the covering of the universe, and some water washed his big toe, his foot, and that water became purified. So everything is purified by contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even things or personalities who are otherwise pure, or to some degree, even to some substantial degree pure, if or when they have some contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they become further purified and glorified by this. And even this, in Nectar of Devotion, for example, it's described how, or in other literatures too, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how if people have contact with the Lord, even accidentally, if they chant a holy name of the Lord, even in some negative mood, like they're mocking. Sometimes it happens. I'm sure all of us who've been out on Harinam before and, out preaching before in public in the streets. We've had people come along and say, "Oh, Hare Krishna." Like, you're doing something silly. Little do they know that even by mocking like that, they get some benefit. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani says, this is a particular category of namabas, to chant in some sort of mocking or derisive type of way. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so pure and so special that even something like that has beneficial effect. And therefore, Narada Muni is such a great, amazing devotee. It's pointed out, it's actually really pointed out particularly in Nectar of Devotion, how Narada Muni, it's in, if I remember correctly, it's in chapter 15, where this is discussed, that Narada Muni is, it's referring to the Bhagavatam, what is it, 7th canto, yeah, 7th canto, where Shishupal is killed by Lord Krishna. And the soul of Shishupal enters the body of Lord Krishna, who's just decapitated him with his Sudarshan chakra. So Maharaj Yudhisthira expresses amazement to Narada Muni. They were both there witnessing all of this. It was happening at Maharaj Yudhisthira's Rajasuya sacrifice. And Maharaj Yudhisthira expresses amazement that how could this Shishupal, how could his soul enter the body of the Lord? Because he was such a rascal and demon, actually. So negatively minded towards the Lord. How could he get this mercy, which is otherwise very hard even for serious yogis to achieve? So the discussion, they have some discussion, and in Nectar of Devotion, it's also described there too, how Narada Muni, he makes the point that people like Shishupal, who have focused on the Lord in negative ways, sometimes their focus on the Lord is so strong in that negative mood. Because when you get into a negative mood, I'm sure we've all had some experience, sometimes you get very focused on whoever your negativity is aimed at. Sometimes you get really focused deeply. So Narada Muni makes that point, that these people became so focused, it seems they become more focused than the devotees her focused in very positive ways. And he actually, sort of, it's tongue in cheek. And he says, maybe we should do that. And Prabhupada makes that point here and there on a couple of occasions also. It's very tongue-in-cheek. But the point in this regard is that however you get your focus on the Lord, if you've got a focus on the Lord, it's beneficial. Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayet. It's Rupa or Sanatan Goswami, maybe Rupa. That in this way or in that way, in any way, but in some way, focus your mind on Krishna. Of course, the point is also there that if one's mind is focused in a negative mood on the Lord, it is not as desirable as being focused in a positive mood of devotion and love, obviously. And therefore, the result for those people who become negatively focused generally is they merge in the Brahman. If they are sufficiently focused, and because they have to be 100% focused, but if they're actually focused to that degree, they enter the Brahmajyoti. They get Brahman realization. Yes, but if they're not, because the example is given of Maharaj Vena in the 4th canto, he had that sort of mood. He forbade worship of the Lord and said everyone should worship him. And if they didn't, then they would just be executed. It was like officially, technically a crime not to worship him. So he also had that negative mood towards the Lord. But Srila Prabhupada explains in one of the purports there that he was not 100% negatively focused. He was also focused on other things, like his own glories and his own enjoyment. Although he was very focused negatively on the Lord, he had other interests also, as opposed to Shishupal, who was exclusively focused on the Lord. And therefore Srila Prabhupada makes the point that Vena did not get that liberation. He went to hell. He went to hell because he was not sufficiently focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada, of course, he talks about the Mayavadis. They have their imaginary process or processes, and they have their foolish ideas that better to meditate on a light than meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. What can you do? When someone is fixed in some stupid sort of mentality, it's very difficult to help them. Prabhupada makes the point that when a person is asleep, you can wake them. But when a person is pretending to be asleep, it's very difficult to wake them up. Yes. So like this, the Mayavadis are difficult customers, so to speak, for the preachers. It's very difficult to convince them. Of course, the good news is that in this Kali Yuga, there are very few real Mayavadis. Even when the devotees were first doing Padayatra in India, the first time way back in the 80s, maybe around 85 or so, then they visited Kanchipuram, which is just in northern Tamil Nadu. And there is one of the headquarters of the Shankaracharya Sampradaya as it exists today. And the head is called the Shankaracharya. And when the devotees came, so he's, in other words, he's meant to be big, official, serious Mayavadi. But when our devotees came with the Padayatra and lots of Harinam and big public programs and an elephant and all of this, he got so inspired, he was telling everyone they must attend the programs. And he, as I understand, he came himself and spoke very positively. What does it mean? It means he's not really a real Mayavadi, because they would avoid such things. Yeah. But it's a fact. This Mayavad philosophy has contaminated people so much in this Kali Yuga that everyone, practically everyone, actually, in one way or another way, is some sort of closet Mayavadi, or they have some impersonal ideas. Yeah. I remember, anyway, one of the favorite songs from my youth, oh my gosh, still extremely popular, Stairway to Heaven. At the end he sings, when all is one and one is all, then you understand you should be a rock and you should not roll. Anyway, that's... It's Mayavad. It's Mayavad. Even amongst such people. So, but Lord Shiva, he got the mercy, and we've got the mercy. Oh, we've got the mercy by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So let us engage in this meditation on our deities, serving the deities, remembering them, in the kirtan focusing on them, and beginning from their lotus feet. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah, press the button again. Which is stop. The red button.
Hare Krishna.
I just press this button again.
Das Vidanya.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, you just turn it.